Hey there, friends. Birdie here, and I am joining you to go through the October All About Pumpkins Joy Box. This one is jam-packed full of fun little crafts, so you could break this up into different little sessions so you have more time. You can do it all at once, however you want to do it. We have a couple new members. I just want to say welcome. So glad you're here. And let's get into it. So I'm going to start by showing you everything you get in your kit, talking about what you need for your kit, and if you are missing anything or if anything comes damaged, please message me via email, support@redbyrddesigns.com. It's on your insert, which I don't have with me, but it's on your insert, so please email me. And that is our recommended method of communication. A lot of times, if you message me on Facebook or Instagram, I don't always see it just because of the way that Facebook is throwing out, and Instagram throws out notifications. A lot of times my messages get lost and it's a couple days before I even get into it because I really have to dive into the messaging system. Like I said, notifications are just not as accurate as email. So if you want me to respond ASAP, please email me. That is the best way to get your messages across in a timely manner. Okay, enough about that. I have here the All About Pumpkin. So let's talk about what you're going to get. You have your printable here. So if you remember in the group, I had asked you guys what your favorite little piece of art was. I decided that I was just going to give them to you all and let you choose. There was a lot of, I can't even remember the numbers, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I did kind of switch it up a little bit to include a pie, which wasn't on the poll, just because we have a pie here. So I wanted to kind of tie that in. But regardless, you have 4 printables to choose from to put on your block for your little piece of art. So we have that. And then the block that comes with it is the exact size. So, and guys, this was a happy accident, but I'm really happy for it. This is going to fit your piece of art perfectly. And all we're going to have to do is, I was able to get 4. The happy accident part was I was able to get 4 on a sheet of paper with the dimensions of the wood. Again, I didn't mean for that to happen. I thought maybe I'd get 2 on a piece of paper, but it turned out that way. So this is your block for your art. So those 2 things go together. And then we have our 3 little blocks of wood. This are your mini books. So you'll hear me refer to these as your mini books. So we've got 3 of those. We have the 3D pumpkins, which I absolutely love this engraving on it. I think it just adds just so much texture and fun fall items to the pumpkin. So we have a large and a small, and they will slot together. It will be a tight fit-ish. And we'll talk about that when we paint those and how we can get that to work perfectly. And then we have your cutting board, which is super sweet and cute, with this little piece of pie. And if you're not a pumpkin pie person, we can paint it however you want. Just fresh pie, freshly baked pie. You should have all your letters for that. So we have that piece there. And then this super cute little gnome. So you have your backer, which is going to be the piece that holds all the little pieces, so we don't have to do anything with this unless you want to paint the back. If you were going to display it on a tier tray that you'd see the back, you're more than welcome to paint the back as well. But we have the hat, you have your beard, the little feet that slot right in with the beard there, and then this cute little pumpkin, his little hands here, and then the nose will sit there. So we've got your gnome, you've got your paint pack, we've got the 6 different colors to choose from for creating your pieces. And again, remember that you can always add your own paint and own colors. This is just a guide. These are just the colors we chose this month, but always feel free to add in your own. You also have Mod Podge, which we'll use with the art piece, the art block. You have 2 of these. I only have 1 with me right now. You should have 2 makeup sponges, your glue, a sanding block, and then the baggie. And mine might be packaged just a little bit different than yours. Just because I always package mine up first, and then as we are preparing the kits, it kind of changes to make sure that everything is packaged well for transport. So you have your black sponge brush, excuse me. You should have a liner brush. You've got jute. You've got some really pretty buffalo plaid ribbon. Our transfers, 3 of them are for the books, and 1 of them is for the rolling pin. You can use them however you want, in whatever order you want. And then, isn't this just the sweetest little thing, this cute little rolling pin? I loved it. I saw it and I was like, this has to go in with our pumpkin pie, all about pumpkin theme. So we'll have that as well. And that is what comes in your kit. What you're going to need for your kit is a pair of scissors, a pencil, a rag, your water cup, and I think that's it. Let me check my list though, because I always forget something. Oh, masking tape. The one thing I always forget, you guys, is masking tape, which, here's mine. Masking tape to hold the tiny pieces. If you don't have masking tape, washi tape works well. Scotch tape works well. Anything with a lower tack. You don't want something like duct tape. Because what happens if you use duct tape, it will tear the wood from your back piece. So really any sort of tape there. And let me just double check my list here. Oh, an old gift card or a scraper tool of some sort. So I've got this old, actually it's a hotel key. But you could use like a scraper tool, something like this. If you know, have something like this, that works. I'm trying to find another one. This one works. So anything to gently scrape your art when we Mod Podge it on works. And that's it. I did list a ruler in the list, and you really don't need it. The instructions kind of talk about how much jute to wrap around the wood and stuff, but we're just going to eyeball it and go with it, because that's just funner. Anyways, let's get started. So I'm going to start with the art block. Well, actually, I'm just going to start painting the base coat on everything. So let's move all of the little bits out of the way. And I'm going to lay out my pieces with my masking tape, and we'll start by putting a base coat on everything. When you're laying out your pieces on the masking tape, I recommend laying them out right reading, or as you would read them. It helps to ensure that you are painting the right side of the letters. Some of these can get transposed, and then when you go to glue it on, it might not look great compared, you know, to the score marks. So I always just kind of lay them out that way. Okay, I think that's all I'm going to put on tape. I think I can, with the hat and the beard, I can hold those while I paint those, so I think we're good on that. And we'll just kind of slide this stuff around. One other thing I forgot to mention is I do love using baby wipes to create a faux stain. So if you have baby wipes handy, you can use those, but it's not necessary. You can use a wet rag, just something like an old t-shirt, an old pair of socks that have holes in it. Really anything that, you know, you don't care is stained with paint, and you can toss. You can use paper towels, but I found that they break down a little bit easier. So be aware of that. You might roll through more paper towels than, you know, they'll start to break down. You'll have to replace those a little sooner, but that's also possible. Just make sure that it's damp, not dripping wet. Okay, we're going to start by just putting our base coat on everything. Now, this is a piece of art. Our art is going to cover the entire front piece of this block, but I want to put a fun color on the edges that we will see. And you can also paint the back, but I'm not going to in this tutorial. That's completely up to you. So I'm going to start by, I think I'm going to go with green. I did orange in my original, and I should bring those over. Let me grab the original pieces so we have some reference to go by. All right, so the block, this was the one that I did for the example. You can see I painted the side orange. It just kind of adds a little more finishing touch to that. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to use just my black sponge brush for this process. You can use a baby wipe if you want to create more of a faux stain look, however you want to do it. And it's okay if you get a little paint on the front, but do be careful not to get too much. We are dealing with just copy paper here, which transposes really nice with the decoupage, but that means it's also a little see-through. So if you get, you know, paint on the front, let's say this green, I'll be able to see that through that copy paper when I decoupage it on. So if you get paint on the top part, try and wipe it off. And if you don't notice it right away and it dries, we can just go over it with some white paint to fix that. So it's always, there's really no way you can mess these projects up. And especially with paint, everything is fixable. And if you don't like something, you can always just redo it just by letting it dry and going over it with a new color. So don't fret about that. So I got a little bit right along the edges, but that's all right. Okay, so we've got that done. Set that aside. And then while I have my green paint out, I'm going to paint everything that I want green. So one of my books, I want green. And so I'm going to start by putting a coat on that. Another tip is you want to make sure that you are putting your paint on in nice light layers. If you try and put your paint on too thick to create just maybe one nice thick layer, you're going to end up with not a nice smooth finish. It's going to glob on, and it's actually going to take a lot longer to dry if you just do nice layers, acrylic paints dry super fast, and so you can get your coats on fairly quickly. It will dry, and by the time we're done with painting our base coat on everything, everything will be ready for that second coat. You can always have a blow dryer handy too. If you're really short on time and want to speed the process up, you can kind of blast it with a little bit of heat and get that process going. Now, because these books are going to be stacked, I'm not going to paint one side. And actually, depending on what book you have on top, that's really the only book you need to paint the top. But I will paint all my edges and the top of all my books, but I'll leave the bottom unfinished. I do have the little hat for the gnome green. Okay, there we go. And we'll wash our brush here. Just trying to think what color I want to do next. We'll do orange. These sponge brushes hold a lot of water, so make sure to kind of just push it on the side of your water jug here. Get most of that water out and have a nice rag here to really squeeze the rest of it out. There have been many times where I haven't taken the time to squeeze my water out and I end up having really runny paint everywhere. Okay. So then the next thing that I'm going to paint is another book. I'm going to have an orange book. And then my little pumpkin pieces for my pie pieces. You could switch to the makeup sponge for this, but I'm just going to be super careful. I'm not going to load my brush up too much, and I'm going to use it like a makeup sponge, and I'm just going to dab. I'm not going to brush. And the reason I don't want to brush is because I don't want to get paint on the edges, and if I brush across, paint's going to catch on the edge as I brush across those edges, and I don't want that. I really just want to paint the top. I want to keep my edges nice and clean. And I prefer the dark edges on my pieces to just kind of help the pieces stand out. I think it makes that 3D effect just a little more noticeable. And when you're painting your pieces, to create that look, you just want to not, let me step back. If you want to paint your edges, you're more than welcome to. That's totally up to you. That's just a preference thing for me. And then we have our little pumpkin. Which I think I'm going to switch to my liner brush for this. Remember, this is all just a guide. Use the brushes, use your tools how you want, how you're most comfortable. And let's paint our pumpkin. So I painted one pumpkin orange and one this really pretty dark red. So I think I'll mix it up for this example, just to show you the different ways you can do things and how it might look. So I'm going to use a baby wipe for this method. And the reason why I'm using the baby wipe is because I just want a small amount of paint. The pumpkins have the really pretty patterns scored in. And for the most part, your score marks do show through multiple layers of paint, but I really want my score marks to pop. So I'm going to use the baby wipe method so that I am using the smallest amount of paint. So I'm going to dip my baby wipe in the paint. You'll see there's a kind of a blob of paint there. I'm going to offload it by tapping on my palette here. And really that just pushes the paint into that baby white and gives me the smallest amount of paint. And now I'm just going to rub it on and you'll start to see my color. If you notice that, you've lost maybe part of that leaf and there's a ton of paint in there, you can get a tool like a needle, a push pan, something with a sharp edge, and just you can go back and clean up those score marks. Just by dragging that pin in those score marks, it will pull that paint out. So you can clean up your pattern if you want. And there we go. Isn't that just pretty? I love that pattern in these pumpkins. All right. Set those aside. And we'll get the next color out. Okay, and I'm going to paint the large pumpkin with the red as well. All right, we are moving on to our brown color. So we're going to stain our cutting board using that baby white method again. Using the brown paint, we're just going to create a nice light coat on this. Okay. We've got our cutting board done. And then while I have the white out, or the brown out, I'm going to take my baby white and do the crust. You could use a makeup sponge for this as well. There we go. And then let's do the little nose. Whoops. Just a little bit of color on the nose. I don't want it to be too dark. So I'm just barely brushing that paint on. And you can always just leave the nose the color of the wood, that tan peachy color. Add a little of that brown to the hands here on the side. There we go. Okay, let's move on to the next color. We're going to pull out black. And I'm going to grab my makeup sponge and we're going to cut the makeup sponge in half so we can get multiple uses out of it. So we really just need this one side. So you're going to hold it by the wedge, by the skinny part here, and this is going to be our painting surface there. So we're going to load our makeup sponge up And when you load it up, I'm going to show you what that looks like. You can see there's a whole glob of paint when you push it into the paint pot. We do not want that much paint on there. So we're going to, squeegee off the excess on the side. So that helps, but there's still quite a bit of paint on there. And so we're going to offload it just like we did the baby wipe. We're going to tap it on our palette, and that is perfect. I don't see any shiny areas where there's a ton of paint. This is going to give us that really nice finish. And then we're going to take it to our piece and just tap, tap, tap. Remember, this is just the first coat on everything. So the first coat might look, a little blotchy, but that's okay. Light layers is better than one thick layer. You have a way better, you have a way smoother surface finish than you would if you did one big globby coat. Okay, then we're going to do the letters in black. Just nice medium pressure, medium to light pressure. We're tapping that paint. And when I go through it and I tap the first time, you'll see that it's very splotchy here. I just continually tap, tap, tap over that area, moving my sponge around, and it starts to fill in. And then I'll go to my offload area. There's still paint there. I'll grab a little more paint on my makeup sponge and tap, tap, tap. Just kind of keep going over that area. This nice light coat, and fill that in. Okay. Black is a color that's super potent, so usually you only need one coat with black. Kind of just depends. So we're going to load up, squeegee off most of that, tap it on our palette, and then come paint our pieces. Okay, I think that looks great. Okay. The last piece that we have is our little dollop of whipped cream for our pie and our beard. And then if we want to paint, or if you want to paint your rolling pin. So we're going to get the white out. We'll start with that. All right, I'm going to grab the other makeup sponge that we cut in half for the white whipped cream. And I'm going to paint that next. And you could use your brush for this if you wanted to, but it's a pretty big surface. So I know I can get it painted a little bit faster with this makeup sponge than opposed the little liner brush. Okay. All right. I'm also going to use the makeup sponge for the rolling pin. I'm only going to paint one half right now, and then as that half dries, I will then be able to roll it and paint the other side. You could tape off your handles if you wanted to, but this makeup sponge has this really great straight edge here. That's what I'm using to get that straight edge there. So I'm going to flip it over so I can see this side, and I can just kind of use that straight edge to get a nice clean painted line along my handle there. Okay. I'm just painting up to the point where I think it's going to sit on the table while it dries, and then I can rotate it. So see, about half of my rolling pin. Get over on this side. I just want to touch up this edge here. Okay. There's one side done. Set that aside for a second. And then we're going to do the beard. So I am using the liner brush, medium-sized brush, and I'm going to use my black and white simultaneously. More white than black. Black's really potent, so don't go too heavy on the black unless you want a black beard, which is totally okay. You can also go with the red beard. We have that red paint, which would be super cute with a kind of an Irish red beard. You can also go with the brown or the orange and red, kind of mix it up. However you want to paint your beard. I'm going to dip my brush with a lot of white on it, and then I'm just going to do a small little dip in the black. So I've got just a tiny, tiny bit of black there, and I'm going to start brushing downwards and out towards these little wisps of hair. And as I brush, that color is going to blend, those two colors, and give me a gray color. And because I'm not pre-blending my colors, I'm going to get all sorts of different colored grays as it blends right on the surface. If you wanted more of a solid colored gray, you could mix the two colors on your palette before painting. But you'll notice that I've got areas of dark, areas of light, and that's because I'm just letting it blend right on my beard itself. The other thing you want to take note of as you're painting your beard is you want to brush in the downward motion up and down, not right to left. That's going to give us that more natural look of the beard. And then also, if you get an area that's a little too dark, just dip your brush right into the white and blend some more white into it. And vice versa. If it's looking a little too light, you can add a little tiny bit of black. So there we go. We get this fun variation of the whites, the grays, and black, all while letting it blend right on the piece. Okay. All right. So everything's painted now. At this point, we can go back and add second coats if you need them. If you don't need them, don't worry about that. So I'm just going to look at everything and make sure it's exactly how I want it. My blocks, I do want to just kind of leave them in this more faux stained look. So I can still see a little bit of that wood grain there, and that's fine. That looks okay. These, I'm going to paint the backs of these now. I will put a second coat on my hat, but everything else is looking okay. So let's start with this. I'm grabbing our baby wipe. Okay. All right, my pumpkin piece looks good. My pumpkin looks good. So I am done with the orange for right now. Let's go and paint our little hat here. And I'm going to use my liner brush for this. Okay. Come in and add our white white paint to the other side here. Our block here. So let's get all of this out of the way. And where's my paper? Okay, I think I'm going to go with this one. I've got my green edge, so I'm going to just lay this on top here. Kind of just scoot it around until it's just right where it's on the edge there. I'm going to take my pencil and just trace the edge. And then we will cut it out. I love this watercolor art here. Okay, I'm just double checking all my edges are good. I've got a little bit on the top I'm going to trim off here. There we go. Okay, perfect. All right, then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get our Mod Podge out and our black sponge brush. We want to be semi-generous with this, but not, we don't want to create a huge glob of it kind of in the middle. So make sure that you push it around really well. Sometimes if you push with the brush, kind of gets the plastic in there to help kind of get that paint around. I mean the Mod Podge, excuse me. As opposed to pulling it. Sometimes pulling the brush doesn't work as well. There's that piece of plastic in the sponge can kind of help aid us pushing that around. So what you want to do is you want to just make sure that it's around all your edges nice and even. You kind of see that, yeah, it's clear. I thought I could show you the sheen, but make sure that you see that it's wet everywhere. And then we're going to lay down our piece, smooth it out with our fingers gently. Just make sure it's all in place there. And then I'm going to grab my old hotel card, old gift card, whatever you have on hand. And we're just going to gently push and pull all the way around. This is going to help us squeegee out any excess Mod Podge and also smooth out any bubbles. So as you're pulling on that, if you see Mod Podge squeeze out the edge, make sure to wipe that away. And then if you have any Mod Podge on here, I just pull it off with my fingers before squeegeeing more. And that way it keeps the Mod Podge off the front. Now, if you have excess Mod Podge and you want to have more of a protective surface on your block, you can go through after this is dry and put a layer of Mod Podge on there. It gives it a nice matte finish, yet it's protective. You can wipe it down if it gets dusty, or, you know, if you have it in your kitchen and something, you know, spills on it, you can wipe it away too once it has Mod Podge. If you leave it just the paper, more likely it's not as durable. Okay, so I have a little bit of a lip here of paper where I didn't cut quite enough. If that happens to you, grab your sanding block, or if you have a nail file, that works really well too. You just pull it off the edge and it's going to sand that little bit of excess away. And give this a nice clean finish. Sometimes I purposefully let my pieces be a little bit bigger, and then I'm able to sand the little bit of excess away, and I get a perfect edge every time. Okay, I have a little bit of a lip right up in this corner. There we go. Isn't that just pretty? It's so cute. It's just the perfect little piece of art, and it's self-standing. Okay, that piece is done. I'm going to go on to these guys. These are pretty simple. They just slot together. If you've painted it and they're not sliding together well, sand right below your slot. That's where the other slot is coming in. You can just sand right there on the front and back, removing some of that paint, or grab your nail file and slide it inside and sand the slot away. Okay, so that's just a quick tip if your things aren't sliding together well. We've got that, and isn't that just gorgeous? The other thing you can think about doing too is painting each quadrant or each side a different color. So, you know, your pumpkin is pretty much cut in half right here. So you could go orange and red, and then on this side you could go green and white. And then as you're viewing it from different angles, it's going to look like it's a different colored pumpkin. Or you could just go, you could slide them together and paint this white, this orange, this red, this green, and kind of have this multicolored pumpkin, which I thought would be pretty cute as well. So the last things that we want to do on the pumpkin is just add our ribbon to the top. So I'm going to grab my jute. You can use the jute or the buffalo plaid, whatever you want. And I'm going to just put a little tie. I'm not going to tie a bow or anything. I'm just going to pull it nice and tight. The jute has these really tough fibers, so just a quick little tie there is going to be fine, and I'll cut off the excess. And then to get the fun little curly cute trendles, I'm going to open my jute up by twisting it. And you can see that there's actually three or four. 3 on this one. Sometimes it's 4. Actually 4 little pieces of string there, and when we open them up, they kind of have a little curl to them, and I love how it looks like it's little vines. So we're going to do that with that. Whoops. And I remember how to hold it. We'll do that with this one. And if you find that your jute isn't holding the knot well, you can double knot it if you want. Okay. There we go. And that fun little top there. All right, those are done. That one was easy. All right, let's do the cutting board next. We're just gonna glue our pieces on next using the individual super glue. So actually it's gonna come in your kit like this. Now inside the applicator is a little piece in there that will actually pierce and open the top. So you don't have to find a needle to open the top. Your applicator will do it for you. All you want to do is twist it on. Now, 2 things about this. You want to hold it by the seam because if you hold it here, you'll apply pressure and glue will come squirting out once it opens. So hold it by the seam. The second thing is as you're twisting it on, you want to hold it in the upright position. If you hold it down like this, once it opens, glue will come out. So seam and upright, and then just go slow as you twist it on. You'll start to feel the pressure. It's going to open that tube for you. You'll even probably hear a little hiss. And I'm just going nice and slow. There we go. We're ready to go. All right. So I'm going to start by taking my letters off. When you take your letters off your tape, you want to be super careful that you don't break them because they can get stuck on fairly well. There's been many times where I've kind of been in a hurry and I've broken my letters. We also want to kind of pull them away at an angle, and that helps keep your letters from breaking as well. This one with the cursive, I'm just going to go nice and slow. I kind of hold the piece and slowly at an angle pull away the tape. So I get all my pieces where I want them to be, and then I'm going to start gluing them on. Now this is super glue, so it does not need to have glue on all of the surface. Just throw a couple drops on there and then place your item down. I put my drops of glue on kind of the bigger spots of the letters and then put them on. We're just covering up the areas where we see the score marks. One thing I forgot to mention is if you wanted to do something a little different in placing your words and elements, your pieces, you can use the back and just ignore the score marks altogether. The back doesn't have any score marks. It's kind of like a clean slate, an open canvas. Allows you to have that artistic freedom to place your items where you want. Okay. I'm going to do the bait. And so for this one, just kind of, again, hitting the areas where there's the bigger part of the letters and the fatter areas. Not worrying about all these tiny little areas to put glue on. This piece doesn't need to be super structurally sound. Oops. Glue, super glue dries super fast. It's got a setup time of about, it will stick in about 10 seconds and then it cures in about 15. So that's why I love using it. It's super fast. If you're not a fan of super glue though, you can use whatever you like or prefer. I know a lot of people like the tacky glue. That works as well. You can even use Elmer's glue. You can use wood glue. Really whatever you want to use, as long as it dries clear. Find something that dries clear, not yellow. Because as we're placing our pieces, sometimes glue gets pushed out the edge and you don't want to have a big glob of yellow glue showing on your piece. Okay. Isn't that just cute? This little cutting board. All right, so for this one, you can use jute to wrap around the top, or you can use your ribbon. I'm going to use the ribbon on this one. Okay, and I'll just wrap it around and just tie it like a shoelace tie, a regular bow tie. I pull it nice and tight to get my knot tight, and then sometimes my loops get a little bit too big. So I hold on to my little knot here and I make my loops a little smaller to the size I want, and then just give it a little tug. And then I'll fluff my bow or my loops, making sure they're the same size. And then I'll cut my tails at an angle for more of a polished look. I'm going to pull this tail, try and get it to come down a little bit. Just kind of fluff, tug, pull. And there we go. And if it doesn't come all the way down, that's okay. Just this cute little bow. All right, and I want to come back and add a little bit of some highlights to my pie. So we'll come back and do that in just a minute. I like to do my highlights the very last thing. So I'm going to put that aside and we're going to work on our gnome. Okay, so we're going to start gluing up our gnome. I'm going to start with the hat, 2 or 3 or 4 drops. Okay, we're going to come back and add some highlights to that as well. I must have dropped glue everywhere, so I'm kind of sticking to my desk, guys. Okay. All right. There's that. Let's do our mini books next. All right, so we are grabbing out our letters here. The first thing that we want to do is we want to cut these out or cut them or separate them. So I'm just going to do one cut all the way across and get 4 separate words here. Okay, and it doesn't matter how you use them or where you want to put one on here. However you want to do it, it doesn't matter. Okay, so we're going to turn these to the side, and you want to use the smoothest side that you have. Kind of just take a look. Wood is can have knots and all sorts of different natural occurring elements to it. So we would just want to make sure to use the side that's the smoothest. Find that. Put them in the order that you want, and then we're going to decide your order of your words, whatever you want to use. Okay. So I'm going to use these 3. I'm going to keep the gather for that. And the first thing I want to do is I'm going to take my old credit card and I'm just going to burnish it, it's called. We're just pushing down on the transfer tape and just making sure that our vinyl letters are going to stick to the transfer tape. So this top piece, this clear piece, is your transfer tape, and then you have your letters and then the backing. So your letters are sandwiched between the transfer tape and the backing piece. Okay, so we're going to slowly just pull the transfer tape away, and we want to make sure that all our letters are going to lift off with that. If you find that one of your letters is not lifting off, just let that fall back down, and you're just going to burnish it or rub it again. Then just take it and apply a little bit of pressure to get it to stick. Okay, and then we're going to lift up again, go slowly, and there we go. So now this is your backing. That's garbage. We're done with that. This is our transfer with our sticker. So I'm going to take my first block, and I want to have my letters be on one side. You could have them be on whatever side you want. You can have them running down the middle, however you want to do it. I'm going to just put mine right here on the edge. And once I've got it somewhat centered where I want it, I'm going to press down with my finger and then smooth it out with my fingers to start with. Just kind of want to get it down. Using a little bit of pressure here, I'm just smoothing it out. Then I'm going to take my card and smooth it out even more. Your vinyl letters are actually activated, the sticky part in the back are activated with pressure. So we do want to just take some medium to hard pressure and smooth, burnish, rub those letters. We want to activate that stickiness so it sticks to our books. So I'm just pushing, pushing, pushing. Okay, and then we're going to check. So I'm going to grab that transfer tape, paper, and I'm going to pull it off at an angle like this instead of just straight up. Going straight up will bring most likely your letters with it. Coming at an angle will keep your letters down. So we're just going to go nice and slow. Now here on this process, if you notice that your letters are not sticking to the wood, to the mini books, again, just like with that first process, just lay your transfer tape back down and rub. Just keep rubbing. Okay? And then try again. You're just going to keep repeating that process until all your letters are sticking. And there we go. Okay? So cute. Love these colors. All right, we're going to do that 2 more times. So here my L isn't sticking all that great. So I'm going to come back, lay it back down, and just add some more pressure. All right, perfect. All right. Then the next thing you can do is wrap them in either the ribbon or the jute. I'm going to use the jute. You can also use your sanding block and kind of rough up the edges if you want. Kind of exposing some of that wood, making them look a little worn. And mostly you just have to do it on the top one because, well, that's really all you see. Just expose a little bit of that wood. Stress them just a little bit. Just be careful of your letters and make sure you don't distress those. All right. You can glue your books together if you want to keep them permanently in place. I'm going to leave mine kind of free. I'm going to take my jute and make sure that I have enough at the top to do a quick tie. Okay. Then I'm going to wrap them once, twice. You have enough to maybe wrap one more time, I think. Yeah, we do. So I wrapped them three times, sorry. 1, 2, 3, yes. And then we'll just do a quick tie up here. You can just do a knot, or you can do a bow tie. I'm going to do a knot and then fray my edges so they match my pumpkins. Give a quick tug. There we go. And then I'll fray open up my jute here. And I will probably put another little buffalo plaid bow on that, but I'll wait and see how I do the rest of my pieces. And there's your little stack of books. Aren't those just the cutest? Okay, there's that. All right, so then we've just got this little guy left. So I'm going to take a piece of jute and I'm going to tie, no, I'll wait. Let's put our letter on first. I was thinking I'd want to put my jute on first, but it might get in my way. I'm going to put this kind of in the middle. lay it down, smooth it out with my fingers, and I come on top with my credit card. Your scraper, whatever you have on hand. And then we're just going to slowly peel. And again, when you're ready to put your letters on, you must make sure that your paint is completely dry. Otherwise, these vinyl stickers, no matter how much you rub them down, won't stick. All right, let's put a little, actually, I have enough. I'm going to put one of these on there. I think this will look cute too. I'm going to see what, do something a little different. I love this little rolling pin because it can really just be used anytime, which is day-to-day decorations in the kitchen. It can be used at Christmas time. Cut the excess off. There we go. Isn't that just cute? It's so sweet. Okay. Let's add some highlights to our pieces and then we're done. I'm going to grab my liner brush and I'm going to go and grab some brown on my brush and I'm going to dip it in the white. I want a lighter brown and I'm going to put some highlights at the tops of my pie crust. And then a line down the side and on the bottom here. Okay. And then I'm going to grab a bunch of white on my brush. Well, I might have to clean it. I was hoping I could just use the brown on there. Okay, we'll clean our brush. And I want to add some shadows in my whipped topping. I'm going to use the brown to create a soft, creamy white. So just a little bit of brown with your white. And it's going to be super subtle. It's not even going to hardly be noticeable. But as you're looking at this, you'll see some little fluffs. So I'm just creating these little C shapes, little circles in my whipped topping to give it some dimension. So you can see how it's just barely noticeable. It gives it some nice dimension. All right, I'm going to take that white and add a highlight to the top of my pieces here. My pumpkin. You can add white into your letters as well if you wanted to. All right, so then for the gnome, I'm going to add a little white on the top of his nose for a highlight, the top of his hands, and then I'll add some white into the pumpkin itself, just kind of the top pieces here. I'm going to add some white to the tops of his shoes. Okay. And then to the tops of his hat. You could get really detailed and have a lot of fun with his hat. You could add stripes with all of the fun colors that you have available. You could add your own colors. You could have a polka dotted hat and really just make it make a pattern on it. Isn't it cute? Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of shadow to the bottom of the pumpkin. So I'm going to grab my orange And I'm going to grab some of that red and mix it together to make a dark orange. Kind of off to the side there. I'm just going to bring in a little bit of that dark orange along the bottom. And soft, small little brush strokes. Get a little bit darker here. Doesn't have to be too dark to create a nice little shadow. Again, something very subtle. There we go. And I can see a little bit of that dark there. Make it a little darker. You can always add a little black to it. You can add some black lines in there. You can add black anywhere around the pieces as well to bring in some defining lines. So your white lines are your highlights and black lines are kind of your defining lines. So you can add those as well. But there we go. Oh, I forgot my little bow on my pumpkin. So what I'm going to do for my pumpkin bow, I'm just going to create a knot here. No bow, just a knot. So I got a little knot there. I'm going to cut the other side off. And you have excess, you should have a little extra to kind of have fun and maybe add some bows other places if you want. Gives you a little flexibility to try different things. I'm going to open up those tails, fray them out, okay? And I'm going to take my glue, I'm going to put a dot of glue there, and I'm just going to put that knot right on that dot. For a little bow on the pumpkin. You could also maybe put a bow up on his hat too if you wanted. There we go. And that is your October Joy Box. I hope you guys enjoyed crafting the All About Pumpkin theme. I hope you enjoyed decorating with this piece for the fall season / Thanksgiving. We have the books. And pull in the pumpkins. And there are all your pieces. There we go. So thanks for hanging out with me. Make sure to post your pictures in the group. Let us see what you're making. Don't be afraid. It's a safe environment. The more you post, the more confident you become, and the more confident we become in crafting, the more we want to craft. So it's a wonderful cycle of building confidence and crafting more. So make sure to post. Let us encourage you. Let us see your style. It's also fun to see how we all get the same thing, but all make something a little different. So I look forward to seeing your projects, and we will chat with you later. Bye, guys.